Guys, in this video I am actually going to be demonstrating a technique of fighting your way back to your feet. If you are ever in a self-defense situation where you've been knocked to the ground, you may need to be able to fight your way back up. Being on the ground in a defensive situation is a very dangerous place to be, and you need to take all precautions in doing this drill and preparing yourself for the actions that you need to take. Guys, here we are on the ground in front of our target. Now, whenever you are in a self-defense situation, being on the ground is an extremely dangerous place to be. Your attacker has a significant advantage over you in a situation like this. So in this particular scenario, basically we have been knocked down. We are still facing the threat. That may or may not be true depending on your situation. You may actually have to maneuver one way or the other. When we draw our firearm from being on the ground, now this is just a little bit different of a technique, but this highlights why it is very important for you to get the fundamentals of being able to draw from a holster and drawing from concealment down, especially in a situation like this where you are on the ground and you've got to be able to defend yourself. The first thing that we have to do here, if we are carrying concealed, is we have got to get our clothing out of the way, just like we would in any other situation where we needed to draw our firearm. Get that clothing out of the way and make sure that you get that full fighting grip on your gun. You have got to have that proper grip on your gun to better control it. If you do not have that proper grip, you're not going to have as much control on your firearm, and you're going to put yourself at a significant disadvantage. Here you can see that I'm pulling my clothing out of the way. I am gripping my pistol, and from here I will be drawing. Make sure when you draw your firearm that you keep your finger off of that trigger. That is a critical point in keeping yourself safe and ensuring that you do not have a negligent discharge. And you can see in the video, when I draw my firearm, I keep my leg that is on the same side of my gun, I keep it straight, I keep it extended out. That way I keep it below where my muzzle is going to be when I draw. I also rotate my toes slightly away from where my gun is, because obviously I don't want to shoot myself in the foot or anything else where I give the attacker an advantage. Once I get my firearm out of the holster, I keep my finger off of that trigger until I get my sights on target. I draw my feet up, I spread my legs, sort of like if you're setting like in a butterfly style. If any of you guys ever played football, this was an exercise that we had to do in high school. I remember when I played football. But this is one way to help keep your legs back, to keep your feet down, to where you do not end up shooting yourself. I then take aim at the target and then fire the shot. Now, one thing you need to be very aware of is the angle at which we will be firing this shot. We're not pointed down toward the ground. We are actually pointed up slightly. Now, that is going to play a critical role in the distance that round can travel. So you need to be aware of that. You need to be sure of your target. You need to be very well versed in those fundamentals and making sure that your aim is correct when you press that shot. You do not want to hit an innocent bystander. We are legally and morally responsible for every round that we fire. After I take my first shots, I take my finger back off of that trigger. This is a critical time. This is something that you need to make sure that you build that muscle memory to do. Get that finger off of that trigger, because as you start trying to lift yourself up off of the ground, your body is going to be under a lot more stress. You're going to be under just an emotional roller coaster. You need to get that finger off of the trigger to ensure that you do not have a negligent discharge from your firearm. Again, we do not need to injure ourselves or an innocent bystander in a situation like this. So keep your finger off of the trigger, extend your feet out, keep your gun pointed down range, and then lift yourself up as if you're trying to do a setup. And this is something that you need to be just a little bit athletic. For those of you guys who may not be able to do a good setup, you may want to consider getting yourself in just a little bit better shape to where you can lift yourself up off of the ground if you needed to. Now that I've fired my shots from the setting position, I again take my finger off of that trigger to make sure that we do not have a negligent discharge. I take my support hand, I place it onto the ground beside me to give myself just a little bit more stable platform. The leg on my support side, I sweep it underneath the leg of my primary side to help get myself up onto my knees. I then use my support hand and push myself up to my knees before making my next shot. After I make my shots from my kneeling position, from my knees, I can then again remove my finger from the trigger and simply stand up to make any follow-up shots that may be necessary. Before doing this drill on your own, you may want to seek professional training. That way you can ensure that you are doing things safely. That is the biggest thing in our training, is that we need to make sure that we are safe in all of the training that we do. You need to make safety a habit. That way, if you are in a situation where you have to defend yourself, a lot of those practices that you have learned, a lot of that muscle memory that you've learned in training, will transfer over to a real life scenario and help to keep yourself a little bit safe from a negligent discharge, from injuring yourself, that sort of thing, or for accidentally hurting someone else. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this drill. Tell me what you think of it down in the comments below. Guys, check out the links down below. I've got links to all of my other social media sites, Facebook. Also got a link to my website at boomsticktactical.com. If you're not a member of the NRA, you can join at the link below and get a discount on membership. You can also find us on Patreon and other places. Check out those links in the description. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.